This S tier Void Hunter build really took me by surprise when I realized how good it was overall. The versatility this build gives really puts Hunter right back at the top of the charts for me, and I'm going to show you guys how to use it. We're going to be using Collective Obligation and Gyrfalcon's Hauberk to really synergize this build together and give you the best experience possible. If you're new here, welcome to the family, and if you've been here, welcome home. Let's get right into it. For those who don't know, Collective Obligation is an exotic pulse rifle that was introduced in Vow of the Disciple. Really fun raid. If you haven't tried it already, I definitely recommend giving it a try. The exotic perk that comes on the Collective Obligation is Void Leech. This weapon leeches void debuffs when damaging targets that are suppressed, weakened, or volatile, and you can also change its firing mode by holding your reload button, and in that mode the damage from the weapon applies the same void debuffs that were leeched. So for example, if you leech the debuffs suppress, weakened, or volatile, it will store in the gun, and once you switch its fire mode, it will essentially apply those void debuffs to the enemy. Its intrinsic perk is Umbral Sustenance. This weapon's magazine is automatically reloaded when you gain Devour, avoid Overshield, or become invisible. Now this pairs really well with our build today because Gyrfalcon's Hauberk applies volatile to the gun, and when you dodge you're going to be going invisible, so you're not going to have a reason to really reload the gun, but there will be times where you need to. But this is just an overall good gun that's going to pair well with this build. As far as the exotic armor, we're going to be running Gyrfalcon's Hauberk. Its exotic perk is See Me, Feel Me. Your void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. When you are invisible and defeat a combatant while using a finisher, all of your weapons gain bonus damage. You and your nearby allies will also gain a reserve overshield and improved class ability regeneration. These reserve overshields can be deployed by using a class ability. Gyrfalcon's Hauberk is going to apply volatile rounds to our Collective Obligation, which is then going to allow us to apply the volatile status effect to the enemy to then leech back into the gun. That way when we switch to our alternate fire mode, we can apply volatile and get that increased damage and burst of void damage onto the enemies. Now for the abilities that play into making this an S tier Void Hunter build. For our super, we are going to be running Deadfall. For our dodge, we're going to be running Gambler's Dodge. Dodging near an enemy is going to fully refund our melee ability. By us throwing our Snare Bomb is going to weaken targets. Weaken is another debuff that we can apply to the targets. Once we kill that target, it's going to leech back into the Collective Obligation. So the recurring pattern is applying our void debuffs to enemies to then recycle into our gun. That way when we alternate fire the gun or return into its alternate firing mode, we're applying all of these debuffs at one given time to clear rooms or put high amount of damage onto an enemy. For our grenade, we are running Suppressor Grenade, an explosive grenade that suppresses any enemy that it hits. Again, we're applying void debuffs to the target to refund back into the gun. That's going to be the recurring pattern. That's going to be our gameplay loop. As far as our aspects, we're going to be running Vanishing Step and Stylish Executioner. Vanishing Step makes us invisible when we dodge. That's going to play into Gyrfalcon. Anytime we go invisible, we are going to be granting our weapons volatile rounds. Stylish Executioner, by defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target, that's going to grant invisibility and true sight. Again, it granting invisibility is going to be giving us volatile rounds. Volatile targets exploding are going to release a burst of damage, which helps us clear the adds and put high amounts of damage out on the field. Our fragments are going to be Echo of Cessation, Harvest, Leeching, and Undermining. Echo Cessation allows our finisher final blows to create a burst of void damage that causes nearby combatants to become volatile, and if you remember on the Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, any finisher that we get on an enemy while invisible releases a void explosion. Echo of Harvest is going to allow weakened targets to create an orb of power and a void breach. A void breach is a dimensional rupture teaming with void energy. When that's picked up, it grants us class ability energy just to help us get those dodge spams going. Echo of Leeching is going to allow melee final blows to start health regeneration for us and nearby allies. And last but not least, Echo of Undermining is going to allow our void grenades to weaken targets. So not only will the targets become suppressed because they're going to be running the suppressor grenades, but they're also going to take additional damage from our gun. Now, our weapons are going to play a huge part in this, but the main star of the show is going to be Collective Obligation, and Pulses did receive a pretty hefty buff not too long ago. So the Collective Obligation is already putting out hefty amounts of damage, so you're going to see that the red bars don't stand a chance, and you're going to start shredding through those yellow bars. The gun works really well against champions as well, and with this build we are going to be able to stun champions. So most notably being barrier champions, we do shred through that overshield and put high amounts of damage on those enemies. For our stats, we're going to be focusing mobility, resilience, and strength. Mobility playing into our dodge so we can constantly go invisible when needed, resilience so we don't die right away, and our strength, which is going to play into our snare bombs, which is going to weaken targets. Your recovery doesn't matter too much because you are going to be invisible most of the time, or you'll have a dodge to go invisible to get out of sticky situations. Your grenades don't matter too much either because we're going to be running grenade kickstart, so you'll be able to get your grenades because you will have armor charges with this build. And your intellect really doesn't too much matter because the amount of adds that you're going to be killing, your super is going to build itself back right away. For our mods on the helmet, we are going to be running Void Siphon. Rapid Void Weapon Final Blows will create an Orb of Power, and Heavy Ammo Finder. I personally run a Void LMG just to help shred some of the yellow bars or the tankier bosses, just to help me get through the rooms a little bit quicker if I need it. It's there, and having Heavy Ammo Finder helps with having ammo for it. For our gauntlets, we are going to be running Grenade Kickstart. Fully using a grenade energy will consume a armor charge and give you some energy back for each stack that you have. For our chest piece, we are running Charged Up. You can run Charged Up and you can run any resistance mods that you feel is good for your activity. You might want to run Solar or Arc compared to, Void and Solar. Just depends on whatever you're running. And for our boots, we are going to be running Void Weapon Surges, 3 of them. This is a Void build, so we are going to be running Void Weapons. I use my Void LMG, and I also use Collective Obligation. Moreover, I use Collective Obligation more than anything because it does put high amounts of damage out. So that's what we are going to be running. For our cloak, we will be running Bomber, reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. Time Dilation, our decaying armor charge has a longer duration. There will be times in your gameplay loop that you'll be doing where you don't necessarily have to throw a grenade, so your armor charges are going to build into your Void Weapon Surge, which allows your Void Weapons to do more damage. And last but not least, we are going to be running Reaper. After using your class ability, your next weapon Final Blow will spawn an Overpower. It's just to help your Overpower flow stay constant, that way you can always build up your armor charges to get your grenades back faster or have your Void Weapon Surges up at all times. Your weapons are entirely up to you. I recommend a grenade launcher just to help clear adds or clear rooms if you need it. I run the New Pacific Epitaph with Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie. Collective Obligation, and for the heavy, it's up to you. You can run a grenade launcher or you can run a machine gun, whatever is your fancy. I run the Commemoration with Reconstruction and Dragonfly because that's the best roll that I could get, and it's just to help clear champions if I need or clear any bosses. But 9 times out of 10 you are going to be running your Collective Obligation because it does a good job of handling the room for you. The gameplay loop that we're going to be following is going to be going invisible before the engagement starts and then throwing a suppression grenade as followed by a snare bomb. That way all of our void debuffs are out and ready to go. Once everything is out, you're going to start killing the adds and you're going to feed those void debuffs back into the gun. Once everything is fed back into the gun, you're going to see a buff on the left side of your screen called Void Charge Leached. Once this is ready to go, you can hold reload to go into the alternate firing mode, and you're going to be able to use all 3 void debuffs to apply to all the targets out there. You are put on a timer, so when it's done, you're just going to rebuild all your void debuffs back up and essentially rinse and repeat. Now, volatile rounds is strong by itself, so just don't forget that once your void debuffs are out, you have to recycle them back into the gun. Using tether and tethering adds, it does feed the abilities back into it as well, so just keep that in mind when doing your gameplay loops. This is one of the builds that I've had a lot of fun using. It's different. When the Collective Obligation first came out, it wasn't a gun that I saw myself using a ton because I couldn't find a good rhythm for it. I didn't have a place for it in PvP, and I couldn't see myself using it in PvE. But with Gyrfalcon, Hauberk, and the recent adjustments to pulse rifles, it's one of the best guns to use on Void Hunter. It gives me the ability to suppress, weaken, and have volatile rounds up at all times, and if I'm ever in a situation where I'm extremely low health or about to die, I usually have invisibility ready to go. Now, we are going to be having Stylus Executioner, so getting a kill immediately turns us invisible. So it's this constant loop of not having to reload the gun, always having volatile rounds, and having a scapegoat if I find myself in a situation where I'm about to die. This build is really good in raids, GMs, strikes, or any regular content you want to run, so don't hesitate to use it in whatever activity. And as always guys, the link to the build will be in the description through dim, so feel free to just copy and paste it just to make it easier for you guys. That is it for this build. This is a really refreshing build that I found myself just having a lot of fun with because I wasn't crushing my special or my heavy weapon. I was mainly using the collective with all the void debuffs and the damage you can put out. I was really surprised because I would have never thought in a million years the collective obligation would make a return like this. Let me know what you guys think of the build down in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed the video, enjoyed the build, leaving me a like and subscribe really helps and it goes a long way. And if you guys haven't already, I do have a Twitch channel and I do use these builds before I make a video on them live on Twitch. So if you guys want to see it live in action or you guys have any questions, feel free to stop by and drop a follow and say hello to the community. But that is it for me guys. Let me know what you guys think overall and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.